Welcome to the fourth and final part of COPD. The last discussion that we had in the part 3 was somewhat related to the complications of pink puffer and blue blotters. As we have seen that COPD basically comprises of two types of diseases or two types of complications that we have seen, that is emphysema and chronic bronchitis. Here is a question for you, that which of these two, that is the pink puffer or the blue water, which of them suffers from emphysema and which other suffers from chronic bronchitis? You can tell that to me. Next is about the pathogenesis, how this COPD has actually developed. And as we all know that we have been studying to the part 1, second and third, that somewhere the causative agent or the cause lies in the smoke exposure, like as we have discussed that the tobacco smoke was responsible, or certain pollutant. It can be an occupational disease also, that certain occupations do involve the risk of getting exposed to certain quantity of smoke or irritants coming out from the factories, or a particular burning of particular substance. There are other factors also responsible, that are genetic factors. If there is some genetic predisposition for acquiring any respiratory disease, then this can develop. Another is respiratory infections, that is if predisposedly a person is suffering from any respiratory infection and the person gets exposed to these noxious agents like tobacco smoke or pollutant or smoke coming from the vehicles, then COPD might develop. Now, a small difference of how asthma as a dyspnea, that is difficulty in breathing, and COPD also presents with difficulty in breathing, and how do we differentiate a patient of asthma and COPD. So both of them will come with this presentation, that they have difficulty in breathing, and now we need to understand how do we differentiate them. Looking at the pathogenesis, how the pathogenesis has actually developed, asthma is basically an airway inflammation is present with CD4 presentation and eosinophilia with T lymphocytes. Whereas in COPD, you will have an airway inflammation, but the cause for that is CD8 with T lymphocyte. Now here you found eosinophilia, or eosinophils were more, whereas here macrophages and neutrophils would be more in infestation. Whereas the airflow limitation that we have said, that the airflow through the air tract would be affected, that is less quantity of air would travel, but this airflow limitation is reversible in cases of asthma, whereas it is completely irreversible in cases of COPD. Next, here is a flowchart that how this pathogenesis actually works. That is, noxious particle and gases creates an inflammation in the air tract. Now, due to this, there can be an oxidative stress, proteinases. This is basically what causes the breakdown of the walls of alveoli. Now, there are certain factors, that is the host factor. That is, what was the host factor? That is the genetic factor, and also some pre-existing respiratory infections that might be present. Antioxidants will cut down the oxidative stress, but still if antioxidants are not present, they will cause an oxidative stress. What is oxidative stress? They are basically some free radicals which act as an oxidant, and they will hamper the chemical pathway present in the cell. And this is how this pathogenesis of COPD actually develops, by exposure of noxious gaseous particles. Now we come to the most important part, that is the diagnosis and assessment. Some key points are discussed here. I will read that out for you. A clinical diagnosis of COPD should be considered in any patient who has dyspnea. What are the symptoms that you might be looking for? It is difficulty in breathing, chronic cough or sputum. The cough can be expectorating or non-expectorating, or productive or non-productive. And then it's a history of exposure to risk factors of this disease. the history of exposure depends on that how much duration or how much length of time the person has been exposed to smoke or some other irritant. Now, in order to assess this and to come to the final conclusion that the patient has developed COPD, spirometry is the ultimate solution. It is required to make the diagnosis the presence of a forced bronchodilator, that is forced expiratory volume and forced vital capacity. If it's less than 0.7, then it is considered to be COPD. We have seen this data earlier also. So this ratio, if it's less than 0.7, then clinically it is confirmed that the patient is suffering from COPD. Now what is the goal? Its assessment are to determine the severity of the disease. See, as we have seen that ratio to be, if it is less than 0.7, but if the ratio falls below that, suppose it comes 0.6 or 0.55, so this ratios will actually tell you about the severity of the disease and also the severity with which the airflow has been limited in that patient. Comorbidities occurs frequently in COPD. What are comorbidity? Morbidity is some presence of some disease. Comorbidity means some diseases which do exist along with COPD. So COPD is present and you have one more thing, and that should be actively looked for and treated appropriately if present. If you have some other disease along with COPD, it should be finely taken care of, because COPD itself will create many complications as the airflow supply or the oxygen supply to the body will get reduced. It can cause a variety of problems, and if added with some other disease, it can be more, it can cause death in the patient also. Now, how do we analyze the symptoms? That is shortness of breath, chronic cough and sputum. There is an exposure to risk factors like tobacco, occupation and indoor-outdoor pollution, which ultimately leads to, if this is all is present, then it is confirmed by spirometry. It is required to establish a diagnosis. Final statement or the final result can only be drawn by the spirometry. Now, in auxiliary investigations, what all you can do, you can go for CBC. This may show, if you are going for complete blood count, it can show you polycythemia, anemia of chronic disease, oximetry and arterial blood gas. ABG is arterial blood gas. Hypoxemia and hypercapnia is in advanced COPD can be seen. Chest X-ray, CXR is chest X-ray. Hyperinflation, low-lying diaphragm and dirty chest can be seen. Then you can have a CT scan of chest. It is centrilobular, paraseptal and panlobular emphysema. Alpha-1 antitrypsin level can be seen for onset of emphysema, as we have seen that this particular antitrypsin level was essential for maintaining the lining of alveoli. If they are deficient, it can cause emphysema. Echocardiogram can be done to help the characterize the severity, but not essentially patient management. Lung volume and diffusion capacities, that is by an exercise testing, can be helpful in assessing the amount of lungs that are functional. Now, complications of COPD. Now, if COPD is present, as we have told you, it is an irreversible change. So, what we can find is acute exacerbation of COPD. A person living with COPD will have a definite level of difficulty in breathing. But suppose if there is an acute attack while the person is suffering from COPD, that the severity of the symptoms may increase 2 or 3 folds more. Cor pulmonale, we have gone through this topic. Pneumothorax, pulmonary hypertension, respiratory failure and polycythemia are some other complications that can be seen while we are discussing about COPD. Now, systemic inflammation in COPD, how this inflammation actually works out, COPD is an inflammatory condition. As we have seen, what are the cells in microcytes are involved, neutrophils are involved, and CD8 is also involved. Pro-inflammatory mediators may be the driving force behind the disease process. Inflammation and action of pro-inflammatory medicators may extend beyond the lungs and play a part in COPD comorbidity. As effective anti-inflammatory therapy becomes available for COPD, it would be important to monitor the effect of lungs and associated comorbidity. So obviously if it's an inflammatory disease, your medication will somewhere revolve around the anti-inflammatory drugs. Now about the systemic inflammation in COPD, clinical consequences that you can find, that is what happens if systematically this inflammation is present. You can find some dysfunction in the skeletal muscle, some congestive heart failure, arrhythmia, hypertension, osteoporosis. Anemia of chronic disease may also develop. Metabolic disease like diabetes, metabolic syndrome, depression, gastrointestinal diseases like gastric ulcer may also develop. So these are the comorbidities or the other potentially harmful disease that can be present in the person suffering from COPD. Now, what are the therapeutic options? The ultimate solution for a person suffering from COPD is to stop smoking. If the person will not stop smoking, this is a progressive disease. It will keep on increasing. So the point here is, smoking cessation has the greatest capacity in the influence of natural history of COPD. Healthcare providers should encourage all patients who smoke to quit. Pharmacotherapy and nicotine replacement as an active ingredient present in cigarette is nicotine. So nicotine can be replaced by some alternatives and reliable increase in long-term smoking abstinence rate. All COPD patients benefit from regular physical activities. So you should be advising the person to have a certain amount of physical activity and should repeatedly be encouraged to remain active. Influenza and pneumococcal vaccination should be offered depending on local guidelines, because a person suffering from COPD may have a high tendency to develop pneumonia or influenza-like symptoms. Now these are some, that is how you tell a person to quit smoking and all. So you need to advise him, you have to ask him that what are is the routine for taking the tobacco, and you need to assist the patient for quitting it by giving him moral supports and also replacement in nicotine. Now therapeutic options, some available are in the form of bronchodilators. They basically manage the COPD by dilating the bronchi, because as there is an inflammation in the air tract, so they will relieve the inflammation and also open up. So they are beta-2 antagonists and anticholinergic and theophylline or combination therapy. So these are all allopathic medication or the inhalers or the pumps that they use for dilatation of bronchi. Nevertheless, we in homeopathy do also have a successful treatment for dilating these bronchioles. So you can have a study about the bronchodilators or the type of medication present in homeopathy, which will help in the bronchodilation. So as I said, they use pumps and inhalers for relieving. So these pumps and inhaler, basically they have an activity of relaxing the bronchi. Also they have a variety of bronchodilators present, which are short acting, long acting, and their duration and action can vary according to the medication involved in them. Oxygen therapy is also documented to be very essential, as the partial pressure of oxygen in persons suffering from COPD falls drastically, and that in order to increase the oxygen saturation level of blood, oxygen therapy is many times suggested. So arterial blood gas level should be increased. Also, people suffering from COPD are advised to keep some oxygen replacement in the room that they stay or the place where they stay. So this has been shown. This lady suffering from COPD is actually having a device which is helping her to get more oxygen so she can lead a normal life. Then we have rehabilitation. That, as I said, that dyspnea and fatigue are very common, so physical exercises should be included in them. And they have a rehabilitation program which is around of 6 months, 6 weeks, which helps the patient first to quit the smoking, also to maintain a proper physical activity, and also they are seen that while quitting they can have many psychological disturbances, so they have a rehabilitation program related to it. So exercising is very essential. You can see how they are helping them to exercise and also have some exercises which are related to breathing. And here comes a very important role of breathing exercises that are included in yoga. So it's very suggestive that the person suffering from COPD should involve himself or herself in breathing exercises. So that's the end. Thank you. This was the last part of COPD. We'll meet up with the next topic, that is pneumonia. Thank you.